We did survive for week 2. That's good, right? I mean, I know it's tough to get excited in a lower stakes pool early on, but listen, we haven't had to buy back. There's only a couple more weeks of buyback, so we're now getting into where the money in the pool starts to build up as people get eliminated. It's hard to envision. How come you don't get excited till like week 6 or 7? What's the reason?
Well, I mean, if it were like the circuit contest, maybe, or if I was in like, my home league pool's got like 23 people and like 6 of them are dead. And I'm like, oh, okay, that $2,300 is now, there's only 17 of us. I start to get excited. But this is like still winning the lottery, Alan. We're still in the lottery thing. It's like, oh, I bought a lottery ticket. Those people are excited to watch the lottery. Like, oh, I bought a ticket. I could win the 200 million. It's like, yeah. And you could also get struck by lightning on the way home. Even it's not raining, but it's not raining. But it could rain, and then you could get struck by lightning, and then you'd have like twice as likely of a chance to die as you would have winning the lottery. So that's why I don't get excited, but it's cool. Look, I've got 10 picks a week in that offshore contest I do, plus yours, plus my home pool. That's 12 picks a week. I've lost 0 through 2 weeks. 12 picks a week, and I've chosen 3 teams. I had the Giants in one of them last week. I had the Bills in 3. I had the Cowboys in 7. I trust you saw my article of why I switched off the Bills to the Cowboys. Yep. Turned out it really didn't matter. That was kind of a pointless debate. They were both easy winners.
Yeah. All right. So right off the bat here, week 3, who do you think? Just we'll get into like what we're doing in a moment, but just run it down. Who are the top 4 or 5 teams that are in play for most teams this week in week 3 Survivor?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the office football pools. There's 4 teams that are in double digits, right? And those are the 4 big favorites. And it's the Chiefs, the Jaguars, the Niners, and the Cowboys.
By the way, you're very dark. What's going on here?
What's weird is it was the light outside, just like the shade, it like started to rain or something outside.
You look like you're being questioned. Like they brought you in, they asking about.
I can turn on the overhead light if you want, but I kind of like this.
This is nice. This is right. This is like, interrogation cell, but this is fine. Good. We'll get you right. You right.
I've been in a prison cell for a long time in my mind. So
have you ever been arrested before?
Never. They never caught me yet. Never been caught.
Because, some people at least were pulled over when they were, young.
I've been pulled over.
Yeah.
I've been pulled over a couple times. I had to like count backwards and put my, stand with your leg, but I passed the test.
Yeah, no, I've never been arrested. One time, and again, we'll get back to this, but one time when I was a kid, we took a stop sign, which, now is like one of you could be like charged with like manslaughter if something happens,
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
So we took a stop sign and we got arrested. I've never cuffed, and the cop had, right when he was about to cuff us and put us in the car, he had to leave on like a more important call. And he goes, you can't.
Little did he know. He thought it was a more important call. He should have put you away for a long time.
Yeah, no, if anyone, never steal a stop sign, because if anyone dies at that intersection, like you could be charged with murder,
Yeah. Murder, manslaughter. Yeah.
Reckless
endangerment or something.
You're going to jail. Put it that way. You're going to jail. So don't
prison
do that.
time. Yeah.
All right. Top 5 teams in Survivor.
Yeah, so there's really 4, right? There's the Chiefs, Jaguars, Niners, and Cowboys. Those are the big 4. They're all in double digits. And this is another week where the highest owned team is the Chiefs at 23.4%. There was just no consideration of pot odds. You were literally just survive and move on. That's it. That's the only thing you're thinking about.
That's who I had marked as our primary team. That's who my placeholder was, the Chiefs.
Chiefs?
Yeah.
Well, I get it. But I like that they're 1-1, like they don't want to go 1-2 losing to the Bears. That's a real disaster. But I don't like that the Bears are so maligned, that Justin Fields has been so ridiculed this week for his bad play. And he said in the interview, I don't know if you heard the interview, he said he kind of blamed the coaches, which is probably partly them and partly him, that he's overthinking everything. He's got all the different, coaching, schemes in his head, and he just can't just play with instinct. And he's like, next week I'm playing with instinct. You remember, we got knocked out last year with the Bears and Justin Fields. We had the Pats, they were playing well, and Justin Fields just went bananas on them, just playing on instinct, making insane runs. And the Chiefs defense, it played
it's
well
good.
last
The
week.
Chiefs defense is good.
It played well last week, let's say.
Well, Chris Jones is back.
Well, that's a huge piece.
Yeah.
But again, they played well last week, but they've had Chris Jones for 5 years, and they haven't been that good as a defense over that span. So I could see that, being kind of an upset pick, like a big upset pick. But Kelsey doesn't look like he's totally himself yet. But I'm fine with it. I'm not against taking the Chiefs.
No, by the way, when I put a placeholder in for our pick of the Chiefs. It's not because like, oh, this is like just in case I forget, I just want to have something in there. Like that's what I did here. So
just so you don't like leave it blank and then we take a loss.
Yeah, my wife has an entry in this pool too. She'd put Jaguars there. So would you consider them like the second team?
They're the second most used team at 21.4. Yeah, I mean, again, I like that they're coming off that loss and that they're probably, they kind of have to. They can't just like be lackadaisical about this. They're not going to take this game lightly after that sort of embarrassing loss. So, yeah.
All right. So the Chiefs are okay to take because the pot odds don't play into it. It's like 20, you said 28%, 25%?
23.4.
23%. So you're not worried about that. Why do you think they're so low owned? I would think that they would be like 35, 40%.
I think people save teams, and the Chiefs are obviously Super Bowl champs. Patrick Mahomes. I think they crushed the Jaguars on the road. Like, I think people are like, this might be the best team in the NFL still, and we don't want to use them up because there's other good choices.
And there's buyback in our specific pool too. So people are going to use. So what do you think would be the buyback options for some of the teams? Like the teams that probably will win, but you don't really want to use later. If anyone is in a buyback pool, who are some of the teams that you might target?
Like Seattle could be one. I like. Again, you're doubling you're having your odds basically by by having to buy back. But if you want to just say, screw it, we'll save teams. Seattle is pretty good. I mean, I think the Panthers could beat them, but at home, they're not, again, it's not terrible. They're only 6-point favorites, but I wouldn't use the Bills. I think that line is too big.
What's that line?
It's 6.5. I think it should be more like 3. I don't think the Bills should be laying 6.5 in Washington. I think this seems like a big line, but yeah. So I mean, obviously you can use the Cowboys, but that's also a team you would typically save.
How about the Niners? 10.5 over your Giants.
Well,
tonight.
I don't think the Niners. I mean, I think the Niners are a team you would save also. So I don't think you're like using them up to use them up. I think you're using them if you think they're the best team, which I kind of think they might be because no Barkley, short week. And I hate teams that went into an epic game the week before. Like it was such an epic win for the Giants and so much of your emotion and energy is in that game. Whereas if you get blown out or you blow somebody out, it's like, okay, you just kind of flush that and move on. So, but at the same time, the Giants are a little dangerous, even without Saquon, Dimes, that offense, they're just a little bit dangerous. Their defense looked really bad.
Do you think Matt Breida can have any fantasy viability tonight?
I picked him up in one league because I put a token bid and I was the 1 out of 4 I got him, not even the one I needed him. But I mean, he's going to get some opportunities. We don't even know, right? Like Brightwell may get half. We don't even know.
Right.
And assuming Breida gets 2/3, you're talking about hard to sustain drives against that defense. Is Andrew Thomas playing? I got to look up Andrew Thomas.
Yeah. Also, this is a revenge game for Matt Breida against his old team.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He'll probably get 3 touchdowns.
So, what do you think about this theory? By the way, I haven't heard it floated too much in the fantasy world. In the preseason, they were talking a little bit about getting Paris Campbell some running back touches, a la Deebo Samuel. Do you think he could have like 4 or 5 running back touches tonight?
I mean, Paris Campbell weighs like 210 pounds and runs a 4.31. He's a sick athlete, but Paris Campbell breaks playing wide receiver. And the last thing you want to do is put that dude at a running back position. Mm-hmm. But I guess he's not important, so they have nothing to lose if he's out for
like
the year.
End around stuff. I mean, things like that.
I would jet sweep with him. And I think that'd be great. I think Dable has that in him and Kafka. Like they will call good plays. Like they can get the Niners defense off balance, but the Niners defense is really good. And Andrew Thomas is not playing. I just looked it up. He's out. So the Giants have a bad offensive line and they're missing their Pro Bowl offensive lineman. So they're maybe the 32nd best offensive line. They may be a top 31 offensive line possibly. And they're in San Francisco on a short week and they're without their running back.
So I mean, should we take San Fran tonight then? Do you think is our survivor?
I can't go against the Giants. I mean, I just can't.
Oh, come on.
I mean, you can do it. You can take it, and it'll be your choice. But I just can't constitutionally do that. I mean,
you still like. I know you love your team,
dude,
but this is money involved here,
dude. I have bets on the Giants too. But the point is that I can't root against the Giants, and I have to root against the Giants. I think the Niners. I'll probably take the Niners to cover, to be honest, because I think the Niners are going to blow them out. Probably.
Well, isn't that the same thing as taking them to cover as taking them in Survivor?
No, Survivor's different because. First of all, a cover is no big deal if you're wrong, right? You take them to cover and you're wrong, and the Giants cover. It's not like I'm not like, oh shit, they covered. But if I take them Survivor and the Giants, get blown out, it's just kind of depressing, So,
well, no, it's hedging your happiness because if they lose, then at least you advance.
Guaranteeing some misery. Either the Giants lose or the Niners
and your Survivor loses. But it's a buyback, so there's your happiness.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take them, you can take them. I won't stop it.
You just scared me when you said that we lost with the Bears last year.
Well, I mean, things don't happen like that 2 years in a row necessarily. I like about all these teams, the Chiefs and Jaguars, they're both got one loss. So I feel like there's no overlooking the opponent here because they can't go 1-2. I mean, you have to take care of these opponents early in the year. The Chiefs already lost one against Detroit, which is a bad loss for them. In their opening game, they really can't lose to the Bears. I mean, they can, but I mean, it's really, really sloppy. So
I want to get it over with. Let's just take the Niners tonight. I feel strongly about this.
All right. I think the Niners are a good pick. Yeah. I just don't want to do it. So
you couldn't say it. You couldn't be your idea.
It's not on me. It's on you. You want to take them, you take them.
Right. It couldn't be your idea, right, to put it forward.
I'm not responsible. It's kind of like, when we once took LSD on a Tuesday in college. I said, I way rather somebody just dosed me. So it's not like I can't feel bad about myself and say, I shouldn't have done this on a Tuesday. I'm a degenerate. If somebody did it to me, I'd be like, you can't do this to me. It's Tuesday night, But then I would be like, well, I may as well enjoy it because it's not my fault. So that's what I am. You're dosing me. You're dosing me.
I thought I've had those situations, not with specific with LSD, but with other, substance happen. Like, all right, since I'm already intoxicated on a Tuesday night, might as well just make it a 3-nighter.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, I wasn't that I am not that kind of a degenerate, Alan.
That happened to me. Oh my God. I thought, my younger days, I thought I was, you mess around with certain substances, but
sure.
I thought it was a substance that goes for one night. It was one of those substances that ends up going for a 3-nighter.
Crystal meth, never a good idea.
It was very bad. It was very good, but very bad.
No, and by the way, that ends that policy I have of go ahead and dose me because then I'm not responsible. That is no longer my policy. So please don't, if you see me, dose me. Thank you.
All right. So to be clear, we are taking the 49ers in our Survivor pool. There is a buyback. I don't trust Kansas City now based on the narrative that Justin Fields, one, he beat us last year, but not so much important, that Justin Fields is reaching a breaking point where people, even in my dynasty leagues, are selling him cheap in Superflex. I was able to get Justin Fields in a Superflex dynasty league this week for Jacoby Myers, Mike Evans, and Joshua Kelly. I mean, come on, that's stealing him,
Right? Yeah. No, I like the deal.
Yep.
I mean, I will say that Dave Gettleman, the much maligned Gettle Chad, that all these fantasy nerds on Twitter were like, oh, he's the dumbest guy ever. He stuck with the maligned Danny Dimes at pick 11. He could have taken Fields. What did he do? He traded it for a first-round pick, which was Tony, who was a bust, but then also got the number 7 overall pick in the next draft, which
Evan Neal.
Right. Well, that's not he drafted him, so he's not responsible for Neal. But the current regime had a number 7 overall pick. Plus, he got Tony, who we traded for like a 4th rounder, which he didn't get much for.
A third. I think it was a third.
Oh, third. And then he got a 5th also thrown in because he stuck with Dimes over Fields. So let's give the Gettle Chat some credit. He's the one who stuck with Danny Dimes at number 6 over Haskins, who everybody thought was better, and they were criticizing him for that, which brings us to the Haskins thing. Didn't you see something crazy on social media?
So, yeah, I mean, all right. So we'll talk about this now quickly. But basically – there was a list put out over the summer of what was it, of quarterbacks that
had
can't
busted,
win.
They were busts, or
quarterbacks that basically can never win a Super Bowl, right? And Dwayne Haskins was on that list,
right.
And people were so aghast because obviously he's dead.
He's dead, yeah.
Right? But
but that is true. Like, he's not going to win one.
That's what I wrote on there. I said factually it's true,
right.
But there was a lot of pearl clutching going over that he obviously just was copying and pasting a list of first-round quarterbacks that have no shot, and it somehow got on there. Unless he was just trolling people for comments, which, by the way, is a good tactic on Twitter now that they're paying money.
Yeah, it's kind of skeezy, but yeah, it's a short-term tactic just to get people to react. But it was like but the comments were so pathetic. It was like, how dare you put Haskins on this list? It's such an insult. And it was like, dude, come on. Like, you're going to get outraged about that? He died a couple of years ago. It's obviously tragic. This is a list about quarterbacks who aren't going to win a Super Bowl. Calm the fuck down.
Right.
It was the weirdest. It was just like the weirdest thing.
What's interesting is like this happens all the time. Like when a celebrity dies, and people start making like the obvious but funny jokes on Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media, and then there's always the oh my god, like the serious oh that's too soon, bad taste, unfollow. I get that a lot. Unfollow if I make a joke like that. So anyway, can we talk a few current events here for football? Just like topics of the day. Sure. Brown, did you have Nick Chubb anywhere?
No, I did not. Did not have him.
Yeah, I used your line. I actually completely stole your line about well, I figure you give me some license. I usually give you credit. I forgot to in this point, but it was in a conversation where somebody had asked me about like what should fantasy managers do that have Nick Chubb? Give them some advice. I said, well, if you don't have Nick Chubb, you don't care about this anyway. Right. And you were saying there's a correlation between how much you care about this and how many Nick Chubbs you have on your fantasy teams.
Right. I mean, look, everybody knows that it's horrible, for football when a superstar, and he's one of the all-time great pure runners in the history of the NFL. I mean, he's never averaged fewer than 5 yards a carry. He's hit 6 through a game this year. I mean, he's insanely good. Yeah. And it's always bad for the game and bad as a fan if a great player is out for the year, and he, who knows if he'll recover. It's a very serious knee injury, right? And it's obviously tragic for that player. But if you're like, yes,
having said that,
no, but if you're like, yes, because that obviously hurts your competition. It's zero-sum game, right? Like the fact that he's out crushes some of your opponents. I mean, you took him in the first round or early second. And you're like, yes. I just said, don't gloat about it. Not because it matters, like you're evil, because Nick Chubb's going to find out. He doesn't care. He's got his own problems. He's dealing with his significant injury. You're gloating about it's not going to harm Nick Chubb. But it's just a really bad habit to get into, to start celebrating and gloating over real-life harm to others, right? It's how you become one of those psychopaths who's like, oh, well, at least our weapons manufacturer made money. Let's keep this war going. I'll just invest more in that way. This is like how you have like real, like moral rot in society over time. So just don't get in the habit of celebrating and getting cheerful over real life, serious things like a season-ending injured or great player. At the same time, don't be full of shit, right? Like, that if you had Nick Chubb in your $1,750 prime time and he's out for the year, it ruins your whole day. You're like, oh my God, right? You are just destroyed. Not because you love Nick Chubb and you care about the human being Nick Chubb, because you're a selfish person who, rightfully so, put a lot of effort into this, put a lot of money into it, and now you just got totally screwed. You're probably not going to win. And if you don't have him, you're going to maybe say, in my opinion, oh, that sucks. That's too bad. But it's not going to bother you at all. It's not going to bother you, in that way where it ruins your day, because your teams are actually better off because of it. So, just be honest, but don't gloat, not because you're the bad guy if you gloat and people shame you're the worst person ever, but because it's just a really bad habit to get into that ghoulish mindset where you're starting to not give a shit if you can profit off a real life harm. Again, it's like, oh, I'll just buy more stock in Raytheon because we're at war. It's like, that's a bad mindset. Like, bad things are bad things. You don't have to, you shouldn't be gleeful about that.
All right. So now we have Jerome Ford, who had a really good fantasy game, probably on your bench because you didn't anticipate Nick Chubb getting hurt. He was the obvious pickup. Was he available in any of your NFFC stuff where there's 10 deep bench? Yeah, none. Yeah, me neither.
Not a single one.
But in some of the home leagues, he was available. He was hard to hold on to, after week one. Then the Browns signed Kareem Hunt. What do you think is a reasonable projection moving forward? Now, this week they play Tennessee, which has shut down the run for Josh Kelly. They're just basically, you can't run on Tennessee. So that aside, what do you think is a reasonable projection for these two running backs moving forward?
So I think on the one hand, Hunt is a good signing. It's better than trading for Akers. I have Madison and Akers in the same league. That was just such a disastrous 6-7 turn for me. But where like, oh, maybe Akers is good and maybe he displaces Jerome Ford. But the negative is that he knows the Brown system. He knows he's been there. And maybe they're like, and he's used to being the third down back. So maybe they're like, okay, he's the pass pro guy that we really trust. And Jerome Ford will be in the Nick Chubb role. Now, that is bad for Jerome Ford because Jerome Ford is a good pass catcher. So he was in that role with Chubb, but I could see it switching with Hunt. That's the only negative. So I don't know how they're going to do the roles. I think in general, a washed up kind of guy like Hunt is less of a threat than a young guy like Akers. And so you're probably happy that's who they signed. But I wouldn't.
But the other side is that Hunt doesn't need any ramp up. He knows the playbook. Presumably, he's kept in reasonable shape, right? I mean, he's like fully integrated in this week.
He's the pass pro third down guy for them. So this is the danger. This is the danger if you're a Ford owner, or if you're going to go, you went in big for $800 or whatever, $850 to get Ford. I get it, because you looked really good. The Browns offensive line is good. We all know now that Nick Chubb was a system player after we saw Ford in the second half. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to it, actually.
So just, I know you don't do weekly rankings, but just off the top of your head, just again, I know it's matchup dependent too, but where would you rank rest of season Jerome Ford, RB what? And then again, just off top of head, and then the same thing, the same exercise for Hunt.
All right, I'd say like RB 14 for Ford. I'm just making that up.
Yep.
And Hunt would be like somewhere in, RB 40 or something like that.
Oh, that late. Okay. All right. Yeah. Hunt is like desperation start type of player.
I mean, I think there's a chance that he's like what he did before is the best case scenario, but he's older and not as good as he was before. So, you're looking at like, he was like running back 25 usually like before, but he's older. And remember, like teams passed on him. He worked out for the Saints and some other teams, and they passed
presumably, everyone was saying they passed on him, but I think it was more that he was like, no, I want my $4 million or an opportunity to make my $4 million, and I'm not going to play for anything else. I think they offered him probably the $2 million contract.
I see. They didn't pass on him. They just didn't. He would have had to blow them away to get the $4 million. He didn't. They were like, we'll give you 2, and he's like,
I'll wait. Yeah. I'll wait till there's an injury, because he knows inevitably it happens. Why am I? And his agent probably said to him, if you want the money, you're better off waiting, missing some checks, and then getting the upside. They're going. So he basically told them in my head, you're the first guy that's getting phone calls.
Did he pay Minka Fitzpatrick to go low on Chubb?
That was
like, I already know. Yeah, that was kind of. I mean, it was a. I don't want to say it's like he did it on purpose or a dirty hit, but that was a very nasty hit to his leg. I mean, it's funny they don't show it. Like they're like, I was watching the replay and this cut away, and I'd heard, I don't know how I'd turned on Twitter or something, and I saw that Chubb was, or RotoWire, I saw that Chubb was out for the year. I was like, holy shit.
What happened on the broadcast, you didn't watch the game live, right? Because
no.
Yeah. So what happened was you couldn't see it from the initial play, and then Joe Buck goes, we're not going to show that, because you heard groans from the stands, and they go, the reason you're hearing, they explained the groans was they just showed it in slow motion on the board. We're not going to do that. We can't handle that. But immediately you go to Twitter, and of course. It was,
and also like, dude, I mean, people are having heart attacks on the field these days. I mean, you can show a knee injury,
maybe some people can't handle it, but it's probably also, normally I'm like kind of like, I don't have feeling about injury. I'm like, oh yeah, players get injured. For some reason, these injuries are like making me like think like, wow, this is a really violent, this is just my personal experience. So maybe they understand that sentiment's happening and they don't want to, exacerbate that. So this is, because it's not Joe Buck deciding not to do it. It's production.
Football is so, all right. He's total nutless monkey. He just does whatever he's told. He's just like, he hears it in the headphone and he says it, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, think about this, right? Like people drafted injury prone, they drafted injury prone players. And if you drafted
Barkley,
Barkley's been hurt a lot. McCaffrey's been hurt a lot. And they're like, yeah, I'll take a chance. But they're like, no, I'm taking Chubb. He's a rock. He's a total rock. And so you think about it, you really can't play it safe in the NFL. Like he is a rock and he's just out for the year. And to me, Chubb was he's the most durable player in the league as of a week ago. I mean, he's a running back that's been in the league 5 years, doesn't miss any time. Oh, he did miss like 4 games 1 year, but he's been pretty durable,
When it's your number, it's your number. I mean, look, Anthony Richardson, that was kind of predictable, right? Like a running
quarterback. A bit reckless. I mean, he reminds me of Justin Fields. Justin Fields is much better when he plays with his instincts, but he's not going to make it through the season playing like that. Like he's going to get hurt because it's too violent. Like you just can't, you need to be, some of those running backs, like a Derrick Henry is big enough to like dish out hits. And even he got hurt 1 year, but it's his foot. But like, it's just very hard to take that many hits and not get hurt eventually. And especially for a quarterback that doesn't run low and, is exposed like that.
All right. For any new listeners to this video or podcast, I'm Alan Seslowsky from RotoWire.com, and this is Chris Liss from Real Man Sports. Chris, before we get into some of your favorite picks against the spread, why don't you just tell everybody in 30 seconds how they can find all of your content?
Everything is at realmansports.com. I'm doing, picking games against the spread. I'm going to write up my Survivor column later today, make my actual pick. I write all of my bets. Everything's accounted for. Every single bet I'm making with Seslowsky, I got to pay him now because I got to buy out of the what was that Rams?
No, you missed the buyout opportunity. So
it's close.
You and I bet $20. And by the way, you're back in Cam Akers versus Kyron Williams weeks 2 through 17. You're alive again.
I'm back alive if Kyron Williams gets hurt. But It was like, immediately we were like betting which would happen going forward. And then Cam Akers in the doghouse doesn't even play.
Well, I had a feeling that he was getting doghouse. I didn't realize he was going to get deactivated. So just based on like what I saw in week 1.
We'll see. I hope I win that bet anyway. But anyway, I document everything and I make the picks and then I write up the games. And I basically say the things you could tell from these videos that a lot of people don't want to say. They don't want to say the truth. Everyone's supposed to say the same thing. I don't have a boss. I'm the boss. So people are like, oh, it's such a tragedy. Nick Chubb got hurt, all this stuff. And it is sad that Nick Chubb got hurt. But like, I try to keep it real and say the things that are actually true, what you're actually thinking. And even if it's not permitted, I'll say it. So realmansports.com, you can check it out for free. There's also a pay option as well.
All right. And also, everybody, if you want to check out RotoWire's premium content, which I know Chris Liss still uses for some of his research, you can go right now to rotowire.com/try, and the paywall unlocks for 2 days when you put in your email. All right, let's get into some picks against the spread this week for week 3. Who's your highest? We'll go your top 3 most confident picks. And obviously, follow this if you like the logic, fade them if you don't, or do nothing, just listen to it for entertainment. All right, who's your most high confidence pick this week heading into week 3?
Yeah, I don't really have one. The 2 games, no, because I just don't.
That build up for nothing.
I just don't, because there's people are like, bet the whatever, +3. Like there's like guys who are funny about it, and they're like, like Brad Evans. I love Brad Evans, but he's not really saying if you pick this, you'll win money. He's not like deceiving anybody. But it's all like goofy and whatever, right?
It's Z Morning Zoo. You remember in New York, Z100 Morning Zoo?
Yeah, he's like goofy and he's entertaining. And that's fine, right? But like, he's not really giving you advice. And there's people who give you earnest advice or charge for picks, and that's really stupid. Don't ever pay for picks. You're already paying the rake. Don't pay for the picks, right? But for me, I'm neither of those. Right? Like I literally don't decide till I have to on Friday now. And I just look at the games and I have some thoughts. Like, so for instance, I make my lines and I look at the real line. So one of them that jumped out was Pats Jets. I made that 3, right? Pats +3 at Jets. Like these teams both kind of suck. They both have bad quarterbacks. They both have good defenses.
What's the real line?
The real line shocked me. It's Pats -2.5.
Right. And you thought the Jets would be favored at home.
Yeah, I thought they'd be favored at home. I think the Jets and Patriots are roughly equal because if you take away the quarterbacks, the Jets are better. There's no doubt the Jets are better. They have better running backs. They have better, their offensive line is at least as good. They've got better receivers because the Patriots don't have any receivers. And they've got, I think, at least as good, if not better defense, right? So if you take away the quarterbacks, the Jets are just straight up better team.
Yeah, but so that's like saying, if like when a player comes back from injury, Chris Liss, like, oh yeah, if he didn't have the ACL, no, he has the ACL. The Jets do have pretty much the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, but how did you like to play, Mrs. Lincoln? Otherwise, the point is, but let's just get with the quarterbacks. So this is okay. Jets are better, slightly better, straight up. Okay, with no quarterbacks, and then let's talk about the quarterbacks. Who do the Patriots have? Do they have Tom Brady? Do they have even Derek Carr? No, they have Mac Jones. Okay, Mac Jones is a below average NFL quarterback at best. Right? He's like the 20th best quarterback in the league. So you're saying, and Zach Wilson, QB1. Now, look, QB1, I thought he'd be laying wood, honestly, this game. I really thought he'd be laying wood. But the thing about QB1 is he's bad. He's really bad. But is he really 5.5 points worse than Mac Jones? I mean, Mac Jones, whatever, right? I mean, Mac Jones, it's like, so let's say Rodgers were playing. What would the line be if Rodgers were playing?
I mean,
would it be like
minus
4.5?
Minus 4.5.
Right.
No,
Patriots +4?
Yeah.
Right. Like okay. So, I mean, that's a pretty big, discrepancy. It might even be +5.5. I mean, because Rodgers is better, presumably, than Mac Jones. So, I don't know. It's just that quarterback position is doing a lot of work now. Belichick is especially rough on green quarterbacks who don't have their confidence. I mean, that's part of the problem too. I think they are giving extra. So, I don't know. It might be one like I'm missing something in that Belichick factor. Although Belichick, it's not like, oh, magic Belichick. Where's that been for 2 years? You know, I've been relying on this magic that just hasn't happened. And the Patriots, what's the point of the Patriots existing this year? Why do they exist? What is the point? I see them play. It's like, oh, you're going against the Dolphins who are really fast and have all these playmakers. You don't have any playmakers. You have none. You can't make a play. You can't do anything. You can drive with short throws and runs down the field for like an hour with a crap quarterback. And then the other team can like score on one play. Like, how can you even compete in the NFL with not a single playmaker? I mean, Ramondre is a nice, solid back, but like, he's not going to break a 50-yard run. So what are they even doing with this roster?
They gave Philadelphia a good game in week 1, and Kendrick Bourne was a good underneath receiver. Now Devontae Parker, he's
Devontae Parker's like 40 years old now, and he's going to get hurt. And Kendrick Bourne is their number one receiver. I mean, Kendrick Bourne is like
Parker was last week.
Kendrick Bourne is like Tyler Boyd. It would be like if your number one receiver were Tyler Boyd, not even as good as Tyler Boyd. He's never produced at the level Tyler Boyd has. If your number one receiver was like a poor man's Tyler Boyd, and then your other guy was like, who's the other guy who got drafted by the Bears in that same draft as Devontae Parker in the first? Kevin White. He's like a rich man's Kevin White. Kevin White's bounced around. These guys, like, they got to have, they lost. Who was the young guy they lost that's out for the year? The Tyquan Thornton was maybe going to be a playmaker. Lost him for the year. Juju's a flat tire. I mean, this is like
Hunter Henry's he's been what we thought he was going to be on the Chargers, at least.
He's good, but I mean, Hunter Henry's not a field stretcher. He's not Darren Waller. He's like Zach Ertz. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the point of this team is. So, I'm leaning Jets, but maybe I'm missing something.
All right. Next game.
Right. The other game that was really off to me was, and I kind of like I don't like to call them the Commanders, the football team. They're
right now, their line, the real line is the Commanders are 6.5 point dogs at home.
Yeah, it's like the Bills. I mean, they crushed the Raiders, right? But like they lost to the Zach Wilson Jets the week 1. Like, I'm not sure the Bills are, who they are yet. And then they're laying this much wood on the road against a team that's, they played, crappy teams, but they're 2-0 and they've got a quarterback that, seems to make some plays. He's just like the other guy. Who was the guy last year they had?
Who? The Commanders?
Football team, yeah.
You're talking about like the quarterback?
Yeah, last year. What was the guy's name?
They had Taylor Heineke.
He's just like Heineke. He's like the scrappy, scramble around, make a mistake, make a play guy. He's like Heineke 2.0, but maybe he's better.
By the way, Heineke is the backup in Atlanta. I'd like to see him get a shot over there.
Right. Yeah. But he's just like Sam Howell. He's just same style. But point is, their defense might be decent. They have some weapons. I think that's too much. So I'd probably take the Commanders. 6.5 just seems like a large line. It's almost like, again, I'm missing something. Like, why are they laying almost a touchdown on the road?
Well, you know what the reason is. People still have this thing where the Bills are like a good Super Bowl contender, and they might be.
They might be.
But they're not. Yeah, the line. What you would make this line? What I'm assuming 3.5.
I made it 3. -3. Okay. I mean, -3 on the road is still like you're the better team against a 2-0 team, but like 6.5. But that shows me something that's weird. Like maybe they're going to kill them. I don't know. But
I heard Warren Sharp say that that Vegas is figuring in 1.5 instead of the traditional 3 now for home field.
Oh, especially if it's closer. So Rufus Peabody did a little work on that. Like if it's like San Francisco playing at LA, that's like 1.5, right? But if it's like, Pittsburgh playing in, Vegas, that may be a little bit more because that travel and time zone adds to the. It's not just home road. Like the 3 generic is a little bit oversimplified, right? It matters how far they have to travel. And so like division rivals playing, New York, Philly, that home road isn't a big deal.
Right. Whereas like a Chargers thing where there is no home field, so they do factor that in.
I mean, I don't know how much they do, but I think Rufus did some work on it and it wasn't like all home. He would adjust based on the distance traveled.
All right. So give me your third. Again, you're saying these are the 3 that stood out to you. I think that's a better way to put it.
That didn't comport with my ranking. So the other one was Steelers Raiders. And then again, I started thinking, well, maybe it's because of the travel. But
now, hold on. Let me just give everyone the Steelers Raiders actual line right now is the Steelers are 3-point favorites on the road in Las Vegas.
Right. Oh, they're giving 3? I thought they're getting 3.
Oh, the Steelers are getting 3?
I thought. Maybe check it again.
I'm going to check it while we're talking. Okay. I'm just reading off of your article, so you don't. You don't
Yeah,
really
no,
say in there.
Yeah,
So
I do.
was
I
just-
do because I make it a minus if the.
Okay, you're right.
the-
So the updated line right now. Everyone scratch everything we just said. The updated line is the Raiders are getting 2.5. Oh, sorry, giving 2.5 at home. So the Raiders are 2.5 point favorites at home.
So I was right. Okay, so I made this line of pick 'em. Okay, and actually pick 'em is closer to 2.5 than 2.5 is to 3, because you understand why, right? I mean, or it's
Most
equally
games
close.
land on 3.
Right, or a lot of games. Enough do that that makes a big difference. So I made this a pick 'em, and I said, why are the Raiders 3-point favorites? I mean, the Steelers. I'm not a fan of Kenny Pickett. I don't see anything special. Maybe he'll end up being good. Some people were talking him up. I don't see it. I see
He's Taylor Heineke.
exactly just a scrappy young quarterback, makes plays, makes mistakes. You don't see anything like any special spark that's like, oh, this guy's amazing.
Do you remember years ago, like 5 years ago, we used to say, oh, that guy's Andy Dalton. Now it's that guy's Taylor Heineke. He's the new.
Well, Dalton's different. Dalton is of the mold. I think like Dalton's the Derek Carr, Jared Goff.
But now these new age guys that are a little bit more mobile, we have to think of a different 30
But
second.
these guys aren't even that mobile. Like, they're just scrappy.
Right. Well, that's Taylor Heineke.
Right. Heineke, Howell, and then and then Kenny Pickett. And maybe he'll develop. Right. He's only in his third year. Like, maybe he'll take
second year.
Was he a rookie last year?
Yeah. He was the first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was only his second year. So maybe he'll take a leap, and we'll be like, oh, Kenny Pickett, the new superstar quarterback. It is totally possible, but I don't see it. I don't see. When I watch him play, I don't see, this greatness here, So I'm not really impressed by the Steelers, but they're well coached. They're like a professional team, and the Raiders are kind of a joke. Maybe they'll turn the corner one day and be a serious team, but it just seems like 3 was a lot. But then I thought, oh, well, it's a late body clock game. They're going to they're an East Coast team going to the West Coast, late body clock, long trip. But then the line went down to 2.5, which is, then with those things factored in, I think it should be about 1.5, 2.5, which is basically the same thing, but not 3. So if it's 2.5, then that just ruins the point I was going to make, which I was going to take the Steelers getting the full field goal.
Yep. I mean, that's why I just want to give everyone the most updated lines. Obviously, the market agreed with you. That's why it moved to 0.5 point. And by the way, anyone watching the video, listening to the stream, if you enjoy videos like this, consider hitting the like button, and also put in the comments who your favorite pick against the spread is. And also, more importantly, just for anyone that scrolls through the comments on a Survivor video, let them know who you're taking in Survivor, right? And let them know why. That's always important. We all try to help each other out. All right, so let's just review your 3 bets against the spread. Just quickly
They're not
list.
necessarily my bets. They're the ones that diverge from my initial lines that I made, which is the Jets, home against the Patriots, getting 2.5 at home. Okay,
Nobody's going to want to take that.
No one's going to want to touch the Jets with Zach Wilson, but no one wants the Patriots laying wood either, right?
Right.
You only want QB1 laying wood. And then you got you got the what was the other one? The Commanders, which this is the one I'll probably still use. The others I have to think about. Getting the full 6.5 at home against the Bills. Maybe I'm missing something, but that seems like way too big. And then finally, the Steelers initially, when they were getting 3 against the Raiders, but now it's down to 2.5, which again is a huge difference to push it off that key number of 3. So I don't know. I got to think about it. The other thing is, sometimes people say, and this doesn't really matter, but it's just a curious thing. When you see a line that makes no sense and you're like, the Bills are way out of line, give me 6.5, that you take them. Like you're missing something. You're not. You're sort of off base if you're off the line by that many points.
All right, a couple other topics. We're going to close against the spread. We're going to go into a little fantasy football topics, and then at the end, everyone, we are going to talk about something that's totally off the football sphere. So we're talking about what's it called? Geological what, Liss?
Oh, what are you talking about?
I was going to ask you about. I have a couple things to ask you about. I was going to ask you about let's hear. I have it right here. Geoengineering.
Okay.
At the end, and then also, did you see the Dave Portnoy Washington Post?
I did. I just talked about that in my regular podcast. In the
okay.
Chris Liss,
so we're going to talk about that after this. I have a few fantasy football things first. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, you could tune out at the end.
Portnoy thing I think it was great, but
yes. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll forget geoengineering. Maybe we need to fine tune that a little bit. But hey, Joe Burrow, I tried to sell him in a bunch of leagues right now. I offered people Joe Burrow, give me Sam Howell, decline. Justin Fields, decline.
No shit.
Yeah, I made an offer.
You got to buy Joe Burrow then. You got to buy when there's blood in the streets. You mean for just this year though, not Dynasty?
Yeah, just this year. Obviously in Dynasty, this is not even a thing, and this is super flex because obviously in a single quarterback league, you put him on the bench, you pick up Baker Mayfield.
People will trade you those guys for Joe Burrow in a second. Yeah,
right.
Okay. QB flex where there's no QBs on the waiver wire.
It was redraft. So I even offered like Scott Pianowski, like Kirk Cousins. Obviously, he said no. I mean, that's I said give me Kirk Cousins and Mostert for Joe Burrow. He said no.
That's a bad offer.
Well, I was thinking maybe, who do I have to offer? CJ Stroud? I mean, is that the level a bit? It's more importantly, like my point was the market doesn't want Joe Burrow, but how do you think
flex? Yeah.
In super flex.
In a single QB league, I would trade for him because I'd be like, okay, maybe he'll be out a month, but then he'll be big maybe.
Right. So really is the question about Jamar Chase, because I think T. Higgins can survive. He's a contested ball catcher. He could jump up, push people out of the way. But Jamar Chase, I think, is in serious trouble here.
So who's the quarterback? It's that
his name is
unevolved.
Jake.
What about Trevor Siemian? It's not Siemian?
No. It's a guy who's never thrown an NFL pass, undrafted Jake Browning. No one knows anything about him.
Okay. So you never know with an unknown, right? You never know. Maybe he's like better than you think, but chances are he's not. Most of them aren't. And
can I pee while you're going over this?
Go ahead. I'm going to do some I told you so you don't have to hear it.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I don't know if Alan is the person who was disagreeing. Why this guy has to pee so much? Every single video, this guy has to pee at least once. I told everybody when Burrow got the calf injury, like there needs to be a discount on him and a discount on Chase and a discount on Higgins. Like, why are we just treating it like Burrow has a month-long calf injury right before the season and everybody was drafting Burrow in the 3rd, 4th, 3-4 turn. They were drafting Higgins early 3rd. They were drafting Chase 2 overall. Why was there no discount on those guys when Burrow was out for a month? Why was there no discount on Kupp when he had a month-long hamstring injury? I mean, this is like criminal negligence. Like I told everybody, nobody would it got no traction. I kept posting like, is there no discount on these guys now that Burrow's out for a month right before the season? They're like, nah, he'll be fine. Like that's crazy. That's just crazy. So now it's coming home to roost. His calf is a problem. We don't know if he's going to play this week. And you don't even know if you want him to play this week because you don't know how he's going to do. And then you don't know if he's going to aggravate it again. So this is a big problem.
All right. So Chase, if we were redrafting, we were starting every league over today, where would Jamar Chase get drafted by you?
Probably like, I don't know, maybe like 14th or something like that.
Oh, okay. In the 2nd round. I was thinking not even a 2nd round pick, but okay.
Well, we don't know that. It's not like Burrow's out for the year. Did I miss some news or something? No, it's not
out for the year. He might even play on Monday night. Point is though, like,
that's what I mean. So
I'd rather have like Chris Olave at pick 14 than.
Well, Olave may have moved up since draft day and he was going like 17. So, I mean, he might be pick 12, right? But like, point is that presumably, right, Burrow, let's just make an over-under, right? Like, I mean, there's volatility here where he could like be out for the year.
Not out, just compromised. Do you remember that year on the Jets that Chad Pennington was playing compromised? It could be something like that.
Right. But let's just say that Burrow, let's just say an over-under of like two weeks, right? Like he misses 2 weeks, he gets back to 100%, fine. You're still going to take Chase at 14 there because he's still going to play in the games that he's not playing, and then you're going to get the number 2 guy or whatever. But the problem is, right, like he had a month off in the preseason. So how do we know that he doesn't need 6 weeks off to really get right with this, to make it so he doesn't aggravate it? And so we just don't know. So it maybe 14 is too high, but my point is just that that the biggest takeaway is like, do not, and this is a Pianowski thing that's absolutely correct. Like, do not be optimistic on injuries. You see an injury, demand a proper discount. And if you don't get that discount, don't do it. Even if you love the player, don't do it. And people were taking it without the discount. You got to say, okay, fine. You like Cooper Kupp? Fine. Give me Cooper Kupp in early round 2. This is before we knew he was out for 4 weeks. I would have taken him, right? After, like, initially we didn't know and he aggravated round 3. Now it was round 4 by the end, round 5 by the end. That's how you need to do it. These guys were still drafted mid 5, 6, 7 after the injury, right? That was a big mistake. And same with Chase, same with Higgins, same with Burrow. Like, demand a discount. There was a point you should take him. I took Judy in the 6th. Now he's apparently fine, although they don't throw him the ball, so it might still be a bad pick.
Right.
But if you get the right discount, you should take him, but never take him at a discount. Right now, I don't know. We don't, everybody knows what's going on. He's hurt. He aggravated it. He may play. He may not play. We don't know whether he'll be compromised. We don't know whether he'll take time off. We don't know the extent it's going to compromise him, and we're just all flying blind here.
Well, you have to take action based on what you know now. Of course we don't. If we knew, then we would know what to do. So really my question, like if someone offers you right now, like, okay, Puka Nacua or Jamar Chase, who do you want on your team?
Chase.
So, I was doing a podcast yesterday, and we both agreed Nacua. So what is your
You
Nacua?
did agree? You would do Nacua for Chase? No way.
I'm not.
I wish we're in the same league. We could make that trade.
I know it's. I mean, well, here's the good news: is that you don't have like if you want to trade Jamar Chase, you can get Nacua plus Deebo Samuel. You know, like you don't have to make that 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chase may be good with this no-name guy. Chase is like elite. You know, so like he may be return a 4th-round value with a crap quarterback. You know, he's that good. So I wouldn't discount him too much. That's why I said 14. You know, I didn't go down to like the end of the second or whatever. And because Burrow, that would be Burrow out for the year. I mean, Burrow it's possible that he's this horrible headache where it's like you never know each week, but chances are he'll play most of the year. And so you're going to get most of Chase. So I think Nacua, I mean, what happens if, I don't know that Cooper Kupp's going to be 100% this year, but
here are a couple things there. Cooper Kupp might not be 100%, and then everyone's assuming when Kupp comes back, oh, he's the guy. Like, what if Nakua's the guy? These guys,
no way.
Why not? Why not?
Nakua just has like average speed. He's just not.
Cooper Kupp is fast.
Well, no, he's not. But Cooper Kupp is like a very rare receiver that became elite despite very pedestrian skills over a period of 5 years. He was an elite receiver.
Kind of like Puka Nacua. By the way, who
games.
Yeah. I mean,
Jeremy Lin, was great for those games,
That's true. I mean, you could. What was the guy on the Eagles? The receiver.
That guy. I know that guy. I think Jeremy Lin, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I can't believe I was talking about
Travis Fulgham.
Fulgham, right? Fulgham, and then there was also the Week 1 phenomenon on the Cowboys. Remember Kevin Ogletree, who went crazy for 1 week.
Do you remember when Sammy Watkins had like 3 touchdowns on the Chiefs or something like Week 1, and then didn't do anything the rest of the year? I mean, look, he got 20 targets. Like, you're gonna do well if you. I mean, look, if you take let's say you took Kendrick Bourne, you put him on the Rams, and you're getting 20 targets. You're in the McVay offense. They're going to scheme you open, and Matthew Stafford is going to be completely healthy and play well. I mean, Kendrick Bourne is going to have Puka Nacua's numbers.
Puka Nacua is the guy that's there now. That's my point.
But that's what I'm saying. When Kupp comes back, if he's healthy, he's going to be the guy. And secondly,
I don't know about that. Could be, but it might not be.
I don't think so. I mean, you never know.
I guess we have another bet.
You Puka Nacua versus whom?
Cooper Kupp. The minute they're both active on the same team for the rest of the year. Now, by the way, if you take Kupp and lose, because
I'm not doing that, because to me, when I'm saying Kupp is going to wreck Nacua, that means Nacua versus Chase, you're going to get wrecked because Kupp's going to wreck it. Kupp may get hurt after 4 games.
Oh, okay.
But,
I thought you meant.
I'm not saying no. I mean, if Kupp were truly recovered, obviously I would take Kupp, but you wouldn't do the bet. We don't know. I'm not betting on Kupp recovering. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying to the extent that Kupp is able to derail Nacua, that's a huge risk that Chase doesn't have. So if you want to do Chase Nacua, I happily do that in PPR.
No, because that doesn't make sense. I said I'd rather have him, but I don't. It's I could get more for him.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
But Nacua it'd be interesting if he does it again. I mean, it's just going to be.
Well, if he gets 15 targets, right, like he's going to have another productive day. It's just that, I don't know. I'm not a big
stats like really like, oh my God, all these air yards mean this. And I understand those are important and people like them. But the one stat I thought was pretty interesting, and I hope I'm quoting it correctly, was that Nacua and again, it's BYU, it's lower competition, but his yards per route run, which is a metric that correlates to how good a receiver is, he led the nation or something like that in those yards per route run.
I didn't know he was that good. So maybe these, they said Scott Barrett did a study, or somebody else's study, but he sent it along, that basically, like, if there's 2 guys who get drafted in like the 2nd round or the 3rd round, wherever they get drafted, and one of them is a sick athlete, like a DK Metcalf or whatever, and one of them is not an athlete at all,
Cooper Kupp.
Drafted, right? Cooper Kupp, or Jarvis Landry was super slow, was really productive as an NFL receiver.
Keenan
Allen, these guys who were still drafted high. I mean, Allen, I think, was like 4th round or something, but Nacua was like 5th round, right? But like guys who are drafted, like in the 2nd round, like if one of them is not an athlete, that means he was really good in college, right? And that means that he's got football skills. The other guy's got gym skills. And so usually the athlete gets outperformed by the football skill guy, the guy who knows how to get open, has a feel for the game, etc. So maybe Nacua is one of those guys because of his production in college. But I don't know. I think it's just he had 20 targets. I mean, they just, you know what it is Van Jefferson is like cannot catch. So he was just like a non-factor. And then you got this little shrimp in Tutu Atwell. And so that's all they had. He was the only game in town.
Yeah, but sometimes you always say it's the magnitude of the sample. Would you rather have, knowing nothing else, a pitcher in his first start that has 24 strikeouts?
24 would be the all-time record. So I would take that guy over anybody. That would be like a guy who hit a home run that was 700 feet.
Well, wait a second. But Nakua has the all-time record for targets for a rookie.
No,
That's my point.
I know. But targets are not like, I mean, targets do mean that you're getting open and you're trusted by the quarterback and whatever. So there is some merit to targets. But like, I could get 20 targets if they paid Matthew Stafford $1 billion to get it to me. Right? I didn't get injured before I got to 20, which I probably would. But the point is, you can't give him credit for targets. You got to give him credit for,
production was there too.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't nothing, right? I mean, it was like he got a lot of production.
Yeah.
And so
all right, so you're still going to be a little skeptical. By the way, Nakua is in my dynasty leagues, man. The craziest one I saw so far was he was traded straight up for Jackson Smith and Jigba in a dynasty league, straight up.
But that's good because Smith and Jigba is just a prospect, right? And so now they're probably equal prospects, right? Like Smith and Jigba was a great prospect, but now Nakua is a great prospect at this point, right? He's now become a first-round prospect, just like Smith and Jigba. But like think about a first-round pick, first-round prospect. That's not going to
wide receiver one overall.
You're not going to be, comparing them to, the Jamar Chases of the world yet. That they're still just prospects.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it. He had, his per target production was modest. It was 7.4, 7.9. He's running short routes, didn't score touchdowns. But the yards per route run are good. But also that's kind of a stupid stat, right? Everyone loves yards per route run. That's an important stat. Well, when I'm running a route, you throw it to me, I'm going to get a lot more yards per route run than if I run routes where you're not looking at me. So if I run a lot of decoy routes, my yards per route run are going to suck. But like, what does that mean? It means nothing.
This is why I said people get lost in the sauce sometimes with the stats. I respect it, but it's not. It's hard to you watch enough football, you play enough fantasy football, you kind of get a feel for how these things are going to turn out, and often reacting before it actually happens, like doing the action in fantasy football before you see it happen, is one of the small edges I think that I have when I play the game. So. All right. What was the?
I picked up for that. I picked up Rico Dowdle in a couple leagues.
Yeah, that's a good.
Guy looked pretty good, and I think Pollard is never used to this big workload he's going to get, and I don't know. I think he could be like a running back, top 10 running back if Pollard were down, and that's what I'm picking up. I mean, Nakua, nobody knew, and then all of a sudden he went bananas. If you got him before the season, but week 2 was the time where people went in bigger than I did, and they got rewarded last week.
So two things. One with Nakua, he did have some preseason buzz. So in some of the NFFC leagues, I mean, most of them, he was taken because there was constant this guy is good, and Sean McVay talking him up and all that stuff. But yeah, in your typical home league, he was probably not drafted. And then you talked about Rico Dowdle. That is exactly the guy who you pick up on the end of your bench. He last week, Jerome Ford was sitting out there in a league, and my wife in the league that we're in, she scooped him up when she threw someone on IR. I mean, that's exactly the right. And then if nothing happens, you could try the next one. So totally agree. If Rico Dowdle's out there, and you have, for example, if you had Ty Chandler on your bench as one of those lottery tickets, exchange that out. Great advice there. What was the last topic we were going to talk about when we said before we scared everybody?
The Portnoy.
Oh, okay, all right. So if we're going to pivot off fantasy football for the next 8 minutes, everybody. So if you don't like Dave Portnoy talk, tune out. If you want to hear what Chris Liss has to say about the Dave Portnoy Washington Post call. So first, just set it up. Give everyone who didn't see it like a 35, 40-second setup, and then we want to hear your take on it.
Yeah, so I'm not a huge Portnoy fan. I think he's entertaining. I think he obviously built a huge business. I think he's a little bit of a panderer, but whatever. He's been a target of a lot of people for sort of brazen, brash, non-PC commentary. I've never think that he did anything that bad. They actually accused him of rape, which is very serious, and it turned out it was a total farce. And he should have sued the shit out of them for defamation, but it's very hard to sue if you're a public figure.
You had called him the modern day Howard Stern to an effect at one point.
I did tell you that I think he's taking Howard Stern has become a total nutless monkey, embarrassing.
Not now. 80s and 90s.
Right. But Howard Stern has embarrassed himself, and he's just become a shill for the man. I don't know what happened to Howard Stern. It's sad because he used to be a hilarious and very
cutting edge. And
fight
the man.
And just very bold. He used to be a very bold, courageous guy, and he just completely capitulated. I think COVID broke his brain. But Portnoy's kind of like the new Howard Stern in some ways. He's like the bad boy who's kind of brash. And, I think he's a bit of a panderer, but doesn't matter. He's doing his thing. He's built a business,
Right, so explain what happened.
Okay, wait. I
Post.
just want to give a background. Okay. So they went after Portnoy a while ago and they accused him of rape. And it was the most ridiculous thing that when he defended himself, it came out. It wasn't even anything remotely even close. It was just a complete pile on. It was completely ridiculous. So he's been used to this kind of thing. So he's organizing some kind of event. He does these like pizza videos that are kind of funny. And he raised some money during the pandemic where people were going out of business, obviously, because of the lockdowns.
You said pizza videos that are kind of funny. These pizza videos where he gives a sampling of the pizza can take a restaurant up 40% in sales if he says a good thing. But, so this is not just a funny video.
But he's also doing it for himself to like.
He's for content. He's doing it for content.
For content. And they're kind of funny. I've watched a couple. I think they're funny. I think they're they're good. But whatever. So, and he also raised a lot of money during the pandemic for these businesses that had been shut down from lockdowns and couldn't sustain. So he did that, right? That's what he's done, and it's PR for him and whatever. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying this is the character that this guy is. He's done some shit. He's been accused of shit. He's kind of brash. He's never done the horrific shit he was accused of, or no one has any evidence of it. If he's done it, and we don't know, maybe, but no one had any remotely, thing approaching good evidence. But sort of the establishment wing, the PC wing has kind of been after him for a while now. So he's organizing this event. I don't know exactly what it is because I'm not, again, a huge fan of his. And he's got some sponsors for this like pizza event or whatever he's doing. And apparently like some reporter from the Washington Post sent an email to his sponsor saying, are you comfortable working with Dave Portnoy? He's a misogynist and a racist or whatever. And the sponsor forwarded it to him. So he had the reporter's info, which was in the email. And so instead of being like, oh, they're canceling me. What do? I got to apologize for nothing or whatever. He calls the reporter live, recording the call on video, puts it on Twitter live. And he says, hey, this is Dave Portnoy. And she's like, Dave, who? She knows exactly who it is, but she's pretending. And he's like, it's Dave Portnoy, the guy you're doing the hit piece on. She's like, what do you mean? We haven't decided anything. And he's like, well, you've been sending nasty emails, like threatening my sponsors. And she's like, we wouldn't do anything like that. And then he reads the email that's calling him racist, misogynist, which don't get it twisted. In this day and age, calling someone that is assassination attempt. I mean, if someone thinks you're a racist, you are done. If someone thinks you're a misogynist, you are done. Those are not lighthearted things like, oh, he's a real jerk, or, he's a real brash, full of shit guy. That's no big deal. Racist, misogynist, those are cancellation words. Those are assassination attempts on your character, your reputation, and your economic security. So she went after him, okay? And he said, yeah, you did. And he reads the email and she's like, oh, that was just a very pointed email to get a response. He's like, but you just denied it.
Just stop there for a second. Because what she was saying is that's a technique that reporters use to get a response from people. She was like insinuating like, oh, we really don't believe that. It's just like a clickbait response thing. Meanwhile, she probably really meant it.
Well, she did it. She sent it and she denied sending anything, impugning his character to his sponsors. This is sponsors. These are the people, that are making
their livelihood,
funding the event. Exactly. And she's sending these nasty emails, insinuating all the stuff about him. Again, if he weren't a public figure, he would sue her for defamation and he would win because she has no evidence. She's just saying stuff based on other innuendo that was proven false in the past. So anyway, point is, he totally busts her lying, being a total scumbag and trying to take him down in this hit piece. And she just weasels out of it. Oh, no, it's just a pointed way. Just like you said, she says it's just a technique. It's like the sleaziest technique imaginable. And this is like National Enquirer stuff. This is the Washington Post, one of the most important newspapers. Jeff Bezos owns it in the United States. And these are the tactics they use to smear somebody who's like against the sort of establishment dictum of how you have to talk and how you have to be and all that bullshit. And basically, he went on the offense. He recorded her. The only thing he didn't do was get her name and say, here's her name.
No, he did. He got her name.
Oh, in the video? I didn't hear.
Oh, yeah. No, he says whatever her name is. I'll look it up while you're talking.
Okay, good. Okay,
and he gets the name of the person that's doing the piece with her.
So this is really the way it goes, is they're trying to destroy people. Oh, we're just, we're doing some reporting, blah, blah, blah. But really, they're doing an assassination attempt and trying to destroy your livelihood and alienate you for the people, your sponsors. And these people need to be, called out publicly and exposed for the filthiness that they are doing. And I'm going to do it to the extent that I can, when I see it. And actually in my podcast, there's a guy I'm calling out big time. I'm not going to do the RotoWire thing, but on my podcast, there is. I'm just done. I was playing always defense before, like, hey, let's be tolerant. Let's respect civil liberties. Let's not, cross line, let's not go after people's lives. I was very on the defense, but now I'm kind of going on the offense because I realized that if you don't attack intolerance, like the only thing you can't tolerate is intolerance. Like these people are actually trying to shut down what you can say, who you can be basically. And I just think like he has the absolute right tact with this, which is go after them, make it embarrassing and really shameful to
Emily
do these
Heel.
tactics.
Emily Heel.
Well,
Yeah.
aptly named.
Heil.
Aptly named. Oh,
Right.
Heel.
Heil.
Oh, I thought it was like Heel.
Right.
But the point is, make it a shameful show. Like put into light the shamefulness of what they're doing. It's like an embarrassment, right? Like it's embarrassing to go smear somebody in that way to their sponsors and like, oh, I'm a journalist. I'm just doing some reporting. I mean, that really, really is disgusting. And I think it just people need to just. Not tolerate this. Like the people that like, you're like, oh, he's the bad guy. No. You reporter, you person you're the one that if I know you, if I'm, a person you knew casually and you're like, hey, let's go hang out. I'd be like, actually, no, thanks. Sorry. Not interested. You're a sleazy person and I'm done. Do not tolerate the intolerant. Do not tolerate dirty tactics. Make this pay. Make it a huge cost to do this. They think there's no cost. The cost is always on the person targeted. Now, because I'm hiding behind Washington Post journalist. I'm just a journalist. You are sleazy. You're National Enquirer level low, and you will be exposed and you will be shamed. And I just think make it, make any self-respecting person be like, oh, no, I'm not doing that hit piece. No way I'm putting myself in that, in the crosshairs there. Good job, Dave Portnoy.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of people, I guess that are hearing you for the first time, Liss, so they don't know that this is the kind of stuff that you talk about on the Chris Liss podcast. Yeah. So if you likes topics like this, which I do. I mean, Chris Liss's podcast is always first in my appointment listening list. It's called the Chris Liss Podcast. You can get it on Spotify. I don't know why yet you haven't pushed it out to all the different podcast providers, but certainly on Spotify. Hopefully
and
on
iTunes.
Apple Podcasts.
Well, thank you for saying that, by the way.
Of course.
But on iTunes. I mean, it's I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I just like put the feed into these. I paste them in. I claim it, and then. Apparently it's on there, but let me know.
But those are the two main ones. Those are the two main ones anyway.
Yeah,
so
it's on those. Yeah.
All right, and I enjoyed that video too. So, all right, everybody, if you enjoy videos like this, Survivor Against the Spread, and some political commentary, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, and all of Chris Liss's content can be found on RealManSports.com. Chris Liss podcast as well, which I listen to. And if you want to get a free 2-day look at behind RotoWire's paywall, all of our premium content is there. RotoWire.com/try. I would tell you to follow Chris Liss on Twitter, but he is now on Noster. He doesn't go on Twitter more than once a week. But
Every
you can
Tuesday.
follow.
We'll see you next Tuesday.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful. I'm at Alan Seslowsky. And just a reminder, if you have SiriusXM Satellite Radio, I'll be there at 9 a.m. every Sunday getting you ready for game day. Liss, we miss you on Sirius Radio. I do miss not hearing you every day there. But that's fine. I hear you on the podcast. I watch your videos, so be it. Anything else before we close out?
No, it's good. It's fun.
Always. And we're going San Francisco with our Survivor pool tonight.
I'm not doing that. You're doing that, and I don't know anything about it. But I'm not against it. I think it's a good. I just think that I would love it if the Giants won, but I just don't know if they have enough left in the tank to do that trip without Barkley. So yeah, probably.
All right, everybody, like and subscribe to the channel if you like videos like this. We'll be back next Thursday. We go live every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. with another Survivor and more podcast. See you next week.